Welcome back to another Kray video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any videos. And for people really into the Krays, join our private Facebook group, Krays Crime Lords of London, where you will find stuff probably unavailable anywhere else. We're an established group with a large membership, and best of all, we're friendly. The link is in the YouTube description section.
We had all been arrested and were now in prison. I still wasn't too worried, because even if the truth about McVitie came out, how could I be implicated? I'd got a phone call in the middle of the night after the event and knew it had happened, but I'd gone back to bed and left the twins and the others to get on with it. I told the twins this as we took our daily stroll, but they were uncompromising. They said I'd have to take my chance with them, and 7 of the firm, who were also on remand. The days rolled into weeks, as the machinery of the law moved ponderously along. The monotony of prison life was relieved by interviews with solicitors, noisy, high-speed journeys to Bow Street, and visits by Mum, the old man, Dolly, and the children. I was tempted to write to Diana, but always decided not to. We had a future together, I was sure of it. But that, like everything else in my life, had gone up in the air. How could I make long-term plans when I had no idea what was going to happen tomorrow? In that cell, I thought about Diana a lot. I knew she would have read what had happened, and secretly hoped she would get in touch one way or another. But I couldn't blame her if she chose not to. Leicester was only 150 miles away, but the world in which she moved was a million light years from the one I was now in. How could Diana possibly begin to understand what was going on if I didn't myself? How could I possibly blame her if she had written me off as an exciting but closed chapter of her life? Through the small, heavily barred window high above me, I stared at the blueness of the summer sky and found myself thinking yet again of the appalling injustice. Innocent until proven guilty, cried the statute of our beloved, jealously guarded democracy. So why was I here? Why was I being treated like a criminal? Why was I incarcerated behind a massive steel and wood barricade as though already tried and convicted by the courts? Slowly, my anger turned to bitterness, and then, as I saw and heard what was happening around us, I started to worry. With the twins and members of their firm locked away on charges that could be thrown out later, Nipper Reed got to work on the big stuff. He needed key witnesses, members of the trusted firm, to betray the twins, to go over to the other side to help put them and others away on the more serious charges. He needed more statements, more damning documents, and, with the twins removed, so was the desire to stay silent. With the fear of retribution gone, the men with a lot to say were free to say it, to do deals to save themselves. As London sweltered, first one, then another Judas, stepped forward to buy his freedom with a pocketful of lies. Now the spider's web was finally spun, and out of the labyrinth of tiny, crowded dockland woodwork came the insects, creeping and crawling to the spider, and their names were Ronald Hart, and Albert Donahue, and William Exley, and Jack Dixon, and Leslie Payne, and Alan Cooper, and Billy Elvey. Still, the twins were optimistic. Still, they had that air of invincibility, the confidence that, when it came to it, they couldn't be charged with murder. Even when we were put in a specially built 2-floor cage, They didn't appreciate the significance of Donahue, Hart, and Dixon being excluded. Even when they heard that visiting friends were intercepted at the prison gates and warned not to have contact with us, they didn't see the danger signals. They were prepared for imprisonment on the lesser charges, though. At one of the early Bow Street hearings, Ronnie was so uninterested in the proceedings that he actually fell asleep during someone's testimony. When I heard the gentle rumble of his snoring, I nudged him and told him to wake up. But Ronnie merely grunted, "Leave me alone," and went back to sleep. Suddenly, the magistrate noticed and asked if Ronnie was all right. I said I thought so, and nudged him again. He opened his eyes and thanked the magistrate, saying he felt fine. But about 10 minutes later, he dozed off again. Later, he said he knew they were going down, so why should he listen to it all? Then the twins were charged with murdering Frank Mitchell. The big man's body had never been found after he vanished in December 1966. But Albert Donahue had told the police the twins had arranged for him to be killed. The charge came as a shock, naturally, but the twins were still surprisingly nonchalant about their worsening predicament. They pleaded not guilty. My barrister, Desmond Vowden, had given me real hope of getting bail at the next Bow Street hearing. Not one of the conspiracy or fraud charges against me had much substance, he said, and he was confident the magistrate would take a lenient view. My spirits soared. Justice was smiling on me, as I always knew it would in the end. The prospect of freedom, albeit a conditional one, dominated my thoughts for the next few days. At Bow Street, the twins and I were always kept in separate cells, but when we arrived for the next hearing, they put us in one together. There, too, was another Mitchell, Charlie Mitchell. We'd known him for years. He was sitting at one end of the cell, away from the twins, and when I walked in, he put a finger to his mouth and said, "Don't speak too loudly. It's bugged." Then he came up to me, saying to the twins, "I'm going to say something to Charlie. He'll tell you later." He whispered in my ear, "You may hear something you think is terrible, but don't do anything about it because there may be a reason for it." I didn't understand what he was talking about, but he said, "Don't puzzle it out. Just remember, I told you." A few minutes later, the cell door opened. An inspector said, "Charlie, we'd like to see you a minute." I went outside into the corridor. The inspector was joined by another officer who said, "Charlie, we're charging you with the murder of Frank Mitchell." My mouth fell open. "You're what?" As we were speaking, Mr. Vowden came along the corridor towards us. I told him what had happened. He was kind and sympathetic, saying he knew I'd had nothing to do with any murder, but there was nothing he could do until it came up in court. He did say he wished he could have taken a picture of me at that time, because I would have been found not guilty by the look on my face. I was gutted, for apart from the horror of facing a murder charge, my much-cherished hope of bail was gone. I went back into the cell and told the twins what had happened. They were stunned. Charlie Mitchell said it was diabolical. He was choked for me. The cage made life bearable for us as the months rolled on. The beds were more comfortable, and there was a TV room which we were allowed into, 2 or 3 at a time. But we were not allowed any contact with other prisoners, nor were we allowed to go to church on Sundays. Security around us was elaborate and efficient, but we managed to find out a lot about what was going on. One new item that filtered through was that Nipper Reed was visiting Brixton in various disguises for his growing Kray dossier. The months rolled on, and then, hard though it was for us to believe, it was Christmas. Mum and the old man, who had sold the Brooks and returned to London permanently, sent in as much food and drink as allowed, although money was beginning to be a bit short. It was my 20th wedding anniversary, but Brixton Prison is far from ideal as a venue for such a celebration. As the festivities passed, and we moved on to yet another new year, I thought of Diana. Had she, I wondered, followed through that decision to leave home? Whatever had happened, I hoped she was happy. And then it was the 7th of January, and the Old Bailey was set for the trial of the century. The Cockney Canaries had sung their hearts out to Nipper and his men. And when the twins and I, with 7 members of their so-called firm, emerged from the cells into the famous No. 1 court that morning, it was not to face the relatively innocuous charges of conspiracy to defraud, but varying charges of murder and complicity in murder. Far from being worried, I was relieved. 8 months in prison without trial by jury had drained me, knocked my self-confidence, left my nerves in tatters, and almost wrecked my spirit. Now it was all over, and 12 ordinary citizens and a fair-minded judge were going to see through all the lies and deceit and set me free. Justice, I'd always been told, must be seen to be done. That cold Tuesday morning, I couldn't wait for the world to see it. People who have never been in trouble with the police will find it difficult, if not impossible, to understand why I didn't go into court and tell the truth about that terrible October night in 1967. That way, I could have thwarted every attempt by police and prosecution witnesses to convict me for something I did not do. But, quite simply, that was not the way we did things in the East End. Nobody, me included, thought for a moment that the twins would plead anything but not guilty to everything, which meant that I would have to deny all knowledge of Jack McVitie's murder and take my chances along with everyone else. Lying, I appreciated, would make things difficult for me, because I had received a phone call in the middle of that Saturday night and had gone to Harry Hopwood's house, and both Hopwood and Ronnie Hart were going to say so. I wasn't unduly worried, however. Hart, the star prosecution witness, had traded his conscience for freedom and had proved at the Bow Street committal hearing that he didn't give a toss for the truth. But my counsel had reserved my defense, and not one of Hart's damning false allegations had been challenged yet. Now, before an Old Bailey jury, the gloves would be off, Vowden would be the aggressor, and every one of Hart's lies, every careless slip of the tongue, not only by him, but by all the prosecution witnesses, would be seized on and torn apart. I honestly didn't think Hart's evidence would affect me too much. He had a grudge against the twins, may have hated them even, but I'd never done anything to make him want to frame me. He'd lied in the lower court, but surely under fierce cross-examination, he would crack and admit I wasn't involved in disposing of McVitie's body. Standing in the famous No. 1 court at the Old Bailey that first morning with the 9 other accused, I felt supremely confident. For at the end of the day, the charge against me was unfounded. That night in 1967, I had not even seen McVitie's body, let alone got rid of it. And anyway, as Mr. Vowden had explained, if the impossible happened, if the preposterous lies were believed, the onus was still on the prosecution to prove I was guilty, not on me to prove I was innocent. I looked confidently at the jury. They all appeared to be intelligent human beings, capable of distinguishing between fact and fiction, simple truth and barefaced lies. I looked at the judge, Melford Stevenson, the epitome of justice. Experienced, knowledgeable, wise. He, too, looked as if he would be eager to protect an innocent man from the falsehoods of his corruptible accusers. The cases against the twins, their so-called firm, and me, went on for 39 days. The popular papers labelled it the trial of the century and the financial cost of the whole affair, over £150,000, earned it a place in the Guinness Book of Records as the most expensive criminal hearing ever. If you want a strictly accurate blow-by-blow account of all that went on, the statements of claim, the pleadings and submissions, wrapped up in colourful and complicated legal mumbo-jumbo, plus all the heated exchanges between accusers and accused that made the headlines, your local library will probably be able to provide you with details. Certainly, I'm not going to attempt to do so here. The whole business, from the moment of my early morning arrest on May the 8th, 1968, to my sentencing on the 5th of March, 1969, was the most nerve-wracking, nightmarish experience of my life, and at the end of it all, I was in no position to remember much about the proceedings, except what had directly or indirectly affected me. Everyone there, from the judge and jurors, to the men in the dock, the barristers in their wigs and gowns, and the spectators in the gallery, saw the trial differently. For me, it was a mixture of highs and lows, from times when I was amused, hopeful, or quietly elated, to others when I was worried, acutely disappointed, or hurled into dark despair. Since this is my story, these are the moments I shall concentrate on. The basis of Ronnie Hart's evidence against me was that I had driven with him in his Mini to Freddie Foreman's pub, the Prince of Wales, in Lant Street, Southwark, in the early hours of Sunday the 28th of October. The purpose of the visit, said Hart, was to tell Foreman to get rid of McVitie's body. This was, of course, a blatant lie, which I thought was made clear when Harry Hopwood, another prosecution witness, told the truth, which conflicted with Hart's claim. Hopwood told the jury, quite rightly, that I had indeed gone to his house, but had set off home alone about half an hour later. Moreover, he added that Hart himself had not left the house. Men have been acquitted on less corroboration, and my hopes were high. But I did not realize then that this was more of a political trial than a criminal one. In case the jury were having thoughts of believing Hopwood, Mr. Justice Stevenson pooh-poohed his evidence. In things like this, people do get mixed up, he told them. It must have been a bit of a shock for him. He must have forgotten. But at least he is telling the truth, or so he thinks. He's just mixed up. We have the proof from Ronald Hart. It was at that moment, I think, that I glanced up at Mum in the gallery. Throughout my life, she had drummed into me how important it was to tell the truth. How I wished, right then, that I could have done just that, backing up Hopwood's accurate statement and redressing the balance in my favor after the judge's appallingly biased comment. My fears that my fate was in the judge's hands rather than the jury's grew when he unexpectedly called an adjournment 30 minutes early, at a crucial moment in Hart's evidence. Hart had been telling the court about a visit he allegedly made with me to Foreman's pub a week after McVitie's murder. He said he remembered Foreman leaning over to me and saying, "When I found that body, it was all glistening like he had Vaseline on him." The pub was noisy, and Hart said he couldn't hear anything else. Just that sentence. It was all too pat, and I was sure the jury would not believe it. Then, during Vowden's cross-examination, Hart made a slip that sent my pulse racing with excitement. Having just stated that I was with him that day, he then said in a loud voice that I wasn't. As Hart was about to get himself deeper into trouble, Mr. Justice Stevenson interrupted the cross-examination and said the court would adjourn for lunch. It was 12:30. The court usually rose at 1 o'clock. During the break, I was very worried, sensing trouble. The judge had been so biased against all the defendants that I felt sure he had called for an adjournment early to protect Hart. Vowden told me I was being oversensitive. The slip was significant, he said, and the judge, realizing this, had called for an early lunch because the case against me would be thrown out that afternoon. I was not convinced, and no sooner had Hart got back on the stand than the judge reminded him, "You said earlier that you weren't with Mr. Kray that day." And of course, dear old Ronnie had had a change of heart. He had been thinking about it over lunch and was now sure that I had indeed been with him. Vowden couldn't believe it, but I could. I may not be as eloquent or as academically brilliant as a university-educated barrister, but I am sharp-witted and astute enough to know when the dice are loaded. No one will ever convince me that Stevenson didn't save the prosecution that day, or that its star witness was not given a gentle prod in the right direction over lunch. Even with Hart giving an Oscar-winning performance to try to convict me, there was so much doubt clouding my case that I should have got off. Thank you for listening. I hope you are enjoying hearing my story, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.